You ever had a day where you thought, no way, this is real life? That was me the morning our HOA president, Karen, yeah, I know original, came stomping onto our property, waving her arms and screaming, "Get out of my lake, I'm calling the cops." At my wife on land we owned outright. The best part? She actually dialed 911, standing there with that fake authority glare claiming our lake cabin was suddenly community property like she'd just decided it herself last night over boxed wine and a spreadsheet. I just remember thinking, lady, you have no idea what you've started. Because if there's one thing you don't want to do, it's pick a fight with my wife Eva, not unless you're ready to lose everything in under 3 days. You want to know what's wild? The whole thing kicked off on what should have been a perfect morning. Sun sparkling on the water like scattered diamonds, me and Eva sipping coffee on our deck, just breathing in the peace and the smell of pine. Tom, our neighbor, Vietnam vet, 70 years old, but tough as old leather, joined us with his nephew Jimmy, a kid with his phone glued to his face like every 20-something these days. Tom looked worried, though, even as he called it a beautiful morning. "Word of warning," he said, voice low. "Carol Henderson's on the warpath again. Ran off the Millers last week, made them miserable with fines and threats. All 'cause their autistic son was too noisy playing in his own backyard." Even Jimmy stopped scrolling, looking up like, "Are you serious?" Before we could process, our gate slammed open, bang, and here came Carol, strutting in like a mall cop, in a power suit, flanked by two beefy security guards and a couple women clutching clipboards. There was a guy in his 40s with a camera, Brian, her brother-in-law, though I didn't know it yet, sweating bullets and glancing at his truck like he was ready to bolt. Carol bellowed, "I am Carol Henderson, HOA president. You're illegally occupying community property." She claimed there'd been an emergency meeting last night. Funny, we hadn't heard a word. Eva, cool as ever, asked for documentation. Carol turned an alarming shade of purple. "I've run this neighborhood for 10 years. I have 50,000 followers on my HOA page." She really said that like she expected us to hand over the house out of sheer awe. "Eva, she's got this calm, dangerous way about her. Just smiled that little smile, asked for proof, and Carol started losing it. Brian tried to flash new bylaws, nearly dropping his keys, and I clocked the Law and Order keychain, same as the guard shirts. The whole show, just intimidation. Carol declared 24 hours to vacate, or I'm calling the real authorities. Then she stormed off with her circus in tow, promising this was just the beginning. Tom, shaking his head, muttered, "She's done this to everyone who stands up to her. The Johnsons, the Wangs, the Millers, they all end up moving out." But Eva wasn't looking at Tom. She was staring at Brian's truck, eyes narrowed. "He's family," she whispered, "and his company gets all the HOA contracts." That's when I realized Eva was 10 moves ahead already. "This isn't about the lake," she said. "It's about money." And she just made a big mistake. Within hours, the harassment started. Industrial mowers at 6 a.m. Carol in our driveway with a megaphone shrieking about community beautification. Our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Chen, stood outside in her bathrobe, looking like she'd seen this movie before. By 2 p.m., a maintenance crew barged in claiming they needed to check our foundations by heading straight for the electrical panel of all places. Eva grilled them until they ran out, leaving a clipboard behind which she picked up like it was Exhibit A in a trial. By evening, they shut off our water mid-shower. Eva came out wrapped in a towel, hair full of soap, the kind of calm that meant someone was about to get destroyed. Carol and Brian showed up at the fence, feigning concern. "Might take days to fix unless you move." Eva called it what it was, harassment. And Carol, of course, doubled down, screaming for Brian to film the hostile woman. Tom and Jimmy came by, and Carol threatened Tom for illegal congregation, then fined Mrs. Chen $500 for her grass being too tall. That night, Eva started digging, pulled up Law and Order's invoices, traced payments, and found the HOA had been funneling every contract through Brian's company with fees that made no sense. "Look at Carol's social media," she said. "New cars, luxury vacations on a $12,000 salary. It stunk to high heaven." But here's where things got crazy. Jimmy, filming for fun, had captured Brian taking an envelope from Carol in the HOA parking lot. Her saying, "Shut up, not here. Anyone could be watching." Eva's eyes lit up. "This is RICO territory, organized crime. I need to make a call." Turns out she wasn't just an ex-cop, she was a retired state police commander. One call and the dominoes started falling. Next day, Carol threw an emergency tribunal at the community center decked out in a judge's robe she'd bought online, banging a gavel like she was running Judge Judy. The whole place was packed, people recording, whispering about Carol's crazy fines and forged signatures. Carol waved evidence that was obviously faked. When people objected, she screamed for security. That's when Eva walked in, dressed in her full commander uniform, the badges and medals shining. Silence. Carol's face went white as a sheet. Eva calmly took control badge out, confirming with the local police chief, who, by the way, reported to her. Carol freaked out, called 911, claiming Eva was impersonating a cop and threatening everyone. When the police rolled up, the chief almost fainted seeing Eva there. "Commander Chen," he said, and you could hear a pin drop. Carol ranted about taxes and her rights. Eva handed over files, real warrants for Carol and Brian, detailing fraud, extortion, embezzlement, the whole package. Carol tried to run, tripped on her robe, got cuffed and dragged out screaming. Brian spilled everything: gambling debts, fake invoices, threats, payouts to board members. The evidence was overwhelming: boxes of documents, hidden bank records, and videos from Jimmy's phone. Mrs. Chen, shaking, shared her story of losing her husband and nearly her house to Carol's greed. More neighbors came forward, fined for nothing, bullied, pushed out. When the feds showed up, the FBI, it turned out this wasn't just local. This was part of a national scam with millions siphoned off by Carol and her cronies. Board members got arrested, their pleas for innocence drowned out by residents finally standing up. Carol, from the back of a patrol car, shrieked about conspiracies, the deep state, and Antifa, but nobody was listening. The whole mess was live-streamed, trending the nation, watching as one petty tyrant got taken down. 3 months later, I sat in a real courtroom watching Carol in an orange jumpsuit, sentenced to 10 years and $2.3 million in restitution. Brian got 5 years for turning state's evidence. The board members got 2 or 3 each. The real victory: Mrs. Chen kept her house. The Millers came back, their son playing outside for the first time in months. Every family got a check enough to pay off debts, start over, breathe free. The new HOA president, Tom, kept everything transparent. We built that playground, held a community BBQ for the first time ever. Turns out it only cost $300, not the $10,000, $1,000 Carol claimed. Eva's case became required reading for law enforcement across the state. Her handling of Carol's downfall led to investigations in HOAs everywhere. 15 more Carols went to prison. Oh, and the best twist, Carol tried to start an HOA in prison, lasted a day before the other inmates shut her down. Some people never learn. So if you ever think you can't stand up to a bully, think again. Document everything, band together, and never underestimate your neighbors. You never know who's living next door or how far the ripples of justice can go. If you've got a Karen in your neighborhood, maybe show them this story. Call it a public service. And hey, if you want to hear how another Karen tried to steal my grocery parking spot and ended up with her car impounded, stick around for next week's saga. Smash that subscribe, drop your city in the comments, and let's talk. What's your take? Was justice served, or does this just scratch the surface? Let's hear your story.